In 1944, German tank crews were torching their own Tigers. Not after losing a battle, the tank just stopped. Wouldn't move, couldn't be towed, so they set the most feared machine on the battlefield on fire and walked away. Nearly half of every Tiger lost in the entire war died exactly like that. No enemy, no hit, a 57-ton legend that quit on its own crew. And every tank list ever made still ranks this thing S tier, best tank of the war. By the end of this, you won't. Because on paper, sure, it's a monster. A gun that obliterates anything in its sights, armor that shrugs off shells like pebbles, a kill record that reads like a cheat code. Over 10,000 enemy tanks claimed for around 1,700 of its own. 6-1. That's the highlight reel. And highlight reels don't win wars. Cost, logistics, and how many you can build win wars. By that scoreboard, the Tiger might be the most overrated machine in military history. So let's run the numbers. Was the Tiger actually OP, or the biggest trap in the meta? First, how do you even unlock this thing? Rewind to 1941. Germany's rolling east, stomping the early meta, and then it runs face first into two builds it did not scout, the Soviet T-34 and the KV-1. Sloped armor, a gun that punched clean through everything the Germans were fielding. For a few months on the Eastern Front, the German player is getting one-shot by units he can't one-shot back. That's a hard counter, and it forced a patch. The answer was the Panzerkampfwagen Besieg, the Tiger. And the design brief was blunt. Outrange and out-armor anything on the battlefield. Not outmaneuver, not outproduce. Overpower. Build a unit that wins any straight fight at any range, and let that one fact carry the whole army. It rolled out in late 1942, 57 tons, a crew of 5, and a price tag we'll come back to because it's the whole story. Now, was the raw kit as strong as the legend says? Yeah, let's give it its due before we tear it apart. Ability 1. The main gun is the 8.8cm KWK-36, and this is the ability the whole build is designed around. In 1942, this thing had no business existing. It could kill most Allied tanks before they were even in range to shoot back. We're talking clean penetrations at over a kilometre, ranges where the enemy is a dot on the horizon, and the Tiger's optics are good enough to hit that dot on the first try. In game terms, this is a max range, high accuracy, one-shot kill primary, the dream stat. It meant a single Tiger could sit in a tree line and lock down an entire road because nothing could approach it inside its own effective range and live. Whole Allied attacks got called off because somebody spotted one Tiger. Firepower rating? S. No argument. This is the ability that built the myth. But a gun this good creates a problem the fanbase never talks about. It convinces you the rest of the build doesn't matter. Hold that thought. Ability 2. Survivability. The Tiger's front armour is 100mm of flat steel, and in 1942 that number is absurd. Most Allied guns of the era simply bounced off the front. Crews reported taking dozens of hits and rolling on. There are accounts of single Tigers absorbing an entire ambush and reversing out fully functional. This is the other half of the fantasy. A frontal arc damage sponge bolted to a sniper cannon. On defense, in the right terrain, one Tiger could hold a position against a force many times its size, because the enemy had to close the distance through open ground into a gun that never missed, wrapped in armor they couldn't crack. Survivability rating, frontal, also S. So now you see why every tier list slots it top. 2 maxed offensive defensive stats. If the game were nothing but 1 versus 1 duels on flat, dry ground with unlimited fuel and free repairs, The Tiger is the best tank of the war, and this video is 90 seconds long. But that's not the game. That was never the game. And the moment you unlock the rest of the stat sheet, the S tier starts to crack. Here's where every Tiger fan clicks away, so let me make it worth staying. I'm not going to argue the Tiger was weak. I'm going to argue something worse, that its two god tier stats are exactly what made the whole build a losing play. That the gun and the armor were so good, they hid 3 D tier stats that lost more Tigers than the Allies ever did. Start with the one that decides every war ever fought: money. A Tiger cost around 250,000 Reichsmarks. That number means nothing on its own. So here's the comparison that matters. One Tiger cost more than twice a Panzer IV, a perfectly good medium tank that did most of Germany's actual fighting. It cost roughly 4 times a Stug 3, the assault gun that racked up more kills than any other German vehicle of the war. So every single Tiger you build is a choice. You are spending 2+ mediums or 4 assault guns to put 1 super unit on the map. And here's the brutal part. That one Tiger can only be in one place. It can't hold 2 roads. It can't cover 2 attacks. It gets 1 position on the map, and the other guy just goes around it. This is the cost efficiency trap, and it's the single most important stat in the entire game. A unit isn't good because it's strong. It's good because of how much board control it buys per point spent. By that measure, the only measure that wins wars, the Tiger is a luxury the German player could not afford to field and could not afford to lose. Cost efficiency rating? D. And it gets worse, because at least an expensive tank that keeps running earns its price back. The Tiger didn't keep running. One promise before we go on. There's a single number coming up that ends this whole debate. Not a Sherman, not a T-34, just one stat. Keep it in the back of your mind. 57 tons is a beautiful armor number and a logistics nightmare. Start with just moving it. The Tiger was too heavy for a huge number of European road bridges, so it had to ford rivers or wait for engineers while lighter tanks just drove across. To move it by rail, crews had to physically swap the outer road wheels and bolt on a set of narrower transport tracks because the combat tracks were too wide to fit the rail gauge. That's not a quirk. That's a chore your enemy never has to do. Then there's fuel. A thirsty petrol V12 hauling 57 tons drank fuel at a rate that gave it a road range of a couple of 100 kilometers on a full tank, and roughly half that across country. For an army that was chronically short of fuel by 1944, you built a super tank that emptied the tanker faster than anything else you owned, and when it broke, which was often recovering, it was its own disaster. A bogged or disabled Tiger needed multiple heavy recovery half-tracks to tow, sometimes 2 or 3 working together. Crews were officially told not to tow a Tiger with another Tiger, because dragging 57 tons would overheat and wreck the tank doing the towing. So your recovery vehicle for a Tiger was more Tigers you couldn't spare. Logistics footprint rating, D, maybe lower. This is the stat the fan base pretends isn't on the sheet, and it's the one that actually killed the build. Remember those crews torching their own Tigers in the cold open? Here's the receipt. When you break down every Tiger lost in the war, only a little over half were actually knocked out by enemy fire. The rest, nearly half, were immobilized, broke down, beyond repair, bogged down, ran dry, or were torched by their own crews, so the Allies couldn't drag them home. Read that back. A tank whose entire design philosophy was survivability. And almost half of them were lost without the enemy landing the killing blow. The armor did its job. The build still died. Because the thing that beats a damage sponge isn't a bigger gun. It's a bridge it can't cross, a tanker that's empty, and a recovery crew that can't drag it home. That's the difference between a strong unit and a good build. And it's why we need to talk about what the Tiger was actually up against. Put the Tiger in the ring against the two tanks it's most famous for beating, the American Sherman and the Soviet T-34. One-on-one, it stomps them. A Sherman that tries to duel a Tiger frontally at range is dead before it's dangerous. Every Tiger fan knows this, and every Tiger fan thinks this settles it. It settles nothing, because the Allies weren't sending one Sherman. The US built somewhere around 49,000 Shermans. The Soviets built over 80,000 T-34s. Germany built 1,347 Tigers, total, in the entire war. So the real matchup was never one-on-one. It was one Tiger against the 5 Shermans that cost the same to build. And those 5 don't line up politely at long range to get sniped. They flank. One fixes the Tiger from the front, while the others get around to the thin side and rear armor and put a round through it. The Tiger can kill maybe 2 before the others are inside its guard. And even if it wins, if it kills all 5, the enemy replaced those 5 before the Tiger's been refueled, while your one irreplaceable super unit now needs 3 half-tracks and a prayer to get to the repair depot. That's the meta. Not who wins the duel, who wins the war of replacement. The Sherman and the T-34 weren't trying to beat the Tiger's stats. They were built to beat its cost efficiency, and they buried it. The Tiger won thousands of engagements and lost the only fight that counted, the production war. So, was the Tiger overpowered? As a duelist, yes, and it's not close. Firepower, S. Frontal armor, S. In a straight fight on its terms, it's the best tank of the war, and I won't pretend otherwise. As a build, it's a trap. It's the flashy, expensive, high-skill ceiling pick that looks unbeatable in a highlight clip and quietly loses you the match. It broke the one rule that actually governs this game. A super unit is only worth it if you can afford to build it, move it, fuel it, and lose it. The Tiger failed all 4. Real tier, I'm putting it at B, and I'm doing it on purpose. Not because it was bad, because strong and good are different stats, and the Tiger is the single cleanest proof of that in the whole game. It's an S tier weapon bolted to a D tier logistics chain, and in a war decided by logistics, the chain is what breaks. The tanks that actually won the war weren't the ones that won the duels. They were the ones you could build 10,000 of, drive across any bridge, and shrug off losing. That's the meta. The Tiger never understood it, and neither does anyone who still puts it at the top of the list. If you rank the Tiger S tier, you're ranking the highlight reel. Rank the whole stat sheet, and it's a B. Tell me I'm wrong. Actually, tell me which tank you think deserves the S tier that everyone hands the Tiger, because that's next. Cost efficiency wins wars. Subscribe, and let's go patch the rest of the meta.